Welcome to episode 27, you guys, of the Austin Downbeat. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for watching and subscribing and commenting and giving me feedback. I can take it. Just be nice. I have a wonderful guest for you today, but first, as always, we're going to do the rundown. Covers August 30th through Labor Day, September 5th. And here we go. Ben Jones on August 30th is at the Saxon Pub solo. Also on that night, Peter Hook and the Light is at the Mohawk. I've seen that show before and it's good, as is Ben. Wednesday, the 31st, you have Justin Langston at one of my favorites. Shout out to the Pershing. He's there. And also the Fix is at Antone's that night. Thursday, September 1st, Natalie Price. We love her at So Far Sounds. Guy Forsyth, love him at Antone's. We love everybody. Dossie rounds out that night at Chess Club. Friday, September 2nd, a lot going on. The Big Gun Show is at the Little Longhorn Saloon. Get it? Big and little. Also on Friday night, The Sweetness and the Storyteller is at Jules Design Bar. And rounding out Friday night, Madame Radar is at Saxon Pub. Saturday, September 3rd, you have J.M. Stevens. He's at Dripping Springs Distillery. Also that night, Ryan Bingham is at the Whitewater Amphitheater. And Jack Ingram is at Green Hall. And lastly, for September 3rd, Urban Heat is at Chess Club. Sunday, September 4th, Scott Strickland is at the Texas Wine Jam. And Labor Day, Monday, September 5th, you have Monday Night Supper Club at El Mercado South. So that's Pat Burns, Ben Jones, and Barbara Nesbitt. And they're really funny and they're really talented. And I need to get down there more and see them. I'll try to be at that one. Okay, let's get to my guest today. None other than Daniel Fears. Been watching this guy, I don't want to call him a kid. Been watching Daniel and listening to his stuff and kind of watching him from afar. It was really nice to get to talk to him. And we had a wonderful, wonderful in-depth conversation about all kinds of things. But some highlights are learning how to be comfortable in being uncomfortable. Daniel is a recovering perfectionist. He sweetly calls himself that and is very aware of that. And it's cool just to kind of talk about that and see how he navigates that in his music career and just in life. He's also a meta learner. One thing I love about him is, and I don't want to generalize, but sometimes when you have someone that's so learned and classically trained, the creative side, we tend to kind of go one side or another sometimes. But what I love about him is he's very well-rounded and has such a way with also his creativity. So he loves that learning piece, but then when it goes to performing and letting go and getting in touch with that creative side, he does that so well. Really interesting person to talk to. It's a very calm and peaceful and relaxed conversation, and I really, really enjoyed it. And so I think you will too. So I'm going to let you get to it. Please enjoy my conversation with the wonderful Daniel Fierce. All right. I am so happy to welcome Daniel Fierce to the show. Daniel, thanks so much for coming on.
Happy to be here.
You're a real champ. So I'm curious about you. I've read stuff on you, but I'd love to hear it from your mouth, just a little bit about your background. And I always, if you've watched or listened, I'm really interested in the moment for people that do what you do. When did you click in your brain? Like, yes, this is what I have to do. And also, I happen to be really good at it, right?
Hmm.
Like, that's a really interesting moment for me. Can you talk a little bit about like a little runway up to that and then how it feels just to like do this for a living and also just be awesome at it?
I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words also. Um, yeah, I can talk about sort of that moment leading up to the like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
because I think I've had a few, but I'll keep them pretty brief. But
Okay.
um, so I grew up in a musical household and a super religious household. Um, we would be at church probably three and or four times a week.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a music director at a big church in Houston.
Nice.
And so we'd go to the rehearsals, we would hear the band, of course, on Sunday. In some
Mhm.
cases, there'd be like two, what do you call it, two services because the church was so big. And so I'd
Yeah.
hear the band twice. There was
Wow.
like a youth band that my mom directed as well. And so we were just around music all the time. I think my dad shared a story with me. I think this youth band had been working on this song for like maybe a month or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when they finally got it, apparently this is my like 9-year-old self was like rolling on the floor in like joy. I don't know. Uh, I feel like I've always just had
Oh,
this like really visceral connection with music.
yeah.
Um, I guess so. I ended up playing like a bunch of different instruments. I wanted to play drums, but I had a drum teacher who was like, "You have to take 2 years of piano
Yeah.
to, to get the coordination, whatever." So I took piano lessons. Ended up changing churches, not seeing a drum teacher at all, and ended up just teaching myself how to play drums.
Nice.
Um, and playing trombone in band. And there came a point when I was like 16 years old. I met this really wonderful teacher named Brian Logan. He was and still is a freelance musician in Houston.
Mm.
So he was playing with the Houston Symphony, like he'd sub in with them. He was playing with salsa bands. He
Wow.
was playing with like Broadway type shows in Houston. He had about 30 students, private
Wow.
lesson students, myself included. And he was driving an Acura. And so I was like, oh, he's doing it.
I want that.
And so I was like, I want to do that,
Yeah.
And at the time too, I was playing with a bunch of different groups. So I told you about me being in church. I would play with the church band. We rehearse on Saturday. We
Mm-hmm.
play on Sunday. Afterwards, I would go to the Houston like youth symphony or Houston youth orchestra. After that, uh, I was playing in like a ska band, playing drums in that, and
Nice.
I was always making up songs with my friends. But like, I was like, if I could just keep doing this, that would be ideal. So that like inspired me to move in that direction. I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no clue. I had no clue. But I went to music school after that, and like anyway, that was like the first moment of like, oh, okay, I know what I'm
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And how would you say, obviously you've grown, as we all do and in everything that we do. How have you grown? Like, what's the biggest thing when you look at that Daniel and then you look at Daniel now? What's the biggest thing when you look back that's different that you've learned?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. Um,
Mm.
I think I'm a lot less judgmental now
On yourself or
on
other?
myself, on people around me. And
Mm-hmm.
I realized that that was like a major hindrance for a long time. Of just like,
Ah.
if things weren't perfect, or if I believed that someone was going to perceive me in a way that I thought was negative, like I didn't want to do that thing. I didn't want to be vulnerable, or like it, in some cases, not all the time, but like I didn't want to be vulnerable.
Mm.
Um, as far as like really honing in on the stuff that I wasn't so good at.
Mm.
I just like was really afraid of being seen as maybe less than or not deserving.
Or not an expert in what you're doing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, why are you here again? You know what I mean?
Oh,
And for me, that was, I was in music school. I was in like, I went to UT, and then I went to the conservatory at Yale, and definitely had that feeling a lot of times. It's just like, oh, I don't like fit here. I don't know what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah. Did was
and
it a
afraid of
little
showing people that, you know?
was it a little bit of like imposter syndrome? Like you didn't feel like you belonged there? Because those
Totally.
are really, I mean, yeah, I mean, I get that. I get that. And you're not alone in that. I've had several people that I've interviewed talk about imposter syndrome. So
Hmm.
that's the good news. You're not alone in that. Those are some really good schools. So clearly at the end of the day, just on the black and white logistics of it, just getting in those schools, you have to be deserving, right?
Right, right,
But it
right.
didn't feel like you were.
It didn't feel like it. And it felt like everyone was like, I know exactly what I'm gonna do when I graduate. I'm gonna go
Uh,
here and here and here and here, you know?
yeah.
And I was just like, I want to play music. I don't know. I want to play with my friends. I don't know. It just seemed a lot less uh my path seemed a lot less straightforward, and thank God it was. I have experienced so much joy in making music with my friends and in making the kind of music that I want to make and exploring different styles, and to me, like, not knowing and not being like dead set on what I had to do was really a blessing.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Have you learned to be comfortable being uncomfortable?
I'm working on it. I'm really working on it.
Yeah, get
Um,
on the bus. That's where I am.
mm,
I think that's kind of the goal. As you age, as I age, I realize that acceptance is my only option, really.
mm,
Sure, I can plan and strategize and do things, of course, but at the end of the day, in the moment when I'm frustrated or upset or being challenged, my only option is really to accept. That's it, right?
yeah,
And so there's a real discomfort in that. And the more I get comfortable sitting in that place, the easier it is in the moment to accept.
right,
And then the easier it is, then I think by default for me is to be my most authentic self because screw it. What else
yeah,
is there really at the end of the day?
I know,
And I
yeah,
would think for a musician where different, when I'm squeezed creatively, different things come out of me than they do for you. And lucky for us, what comes out of you is just really beautiful music that I want to talk about the music specifically. When you're in the chorus of Keep On, your latest single, are you in your falsetto in the chorus or is that just your higher register?
yeah. I'm
Or
in my falsetto.
that's
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful. It's
Thank you.
absolutely beautiful. The way that you handle your range is reminiscent for me. I'm a 80s, 90s gal, like Brian McKnight and Luther Vandross, who I love those guys.
Yeah,
And you just remind me of that old school, put it on, put your hair in a bun, Saturday cleaning or have a glass of wine. You know what I mean? That
yeah.
music that for me, that's how I'm responding to what you do, where it's this really comfortable thing to listen to. And
Hmm.
it makes me feel nostalgic, but then it also feels like it's you and it's different and it's not
Hmm.
the same, you know? But
Yeah.
I just wanted to acknowledge your register because you have such a beautiful transition through that. And you make it sound really like you're not trying very hard at all, which is
Hmm.
really annoying because that means you're really good.
That's funny. That's
I think
funny.
I sound like that in my car when I'm singing, but probably don't.
Yeah, that's funny you say that. I no, I appreciate that. What's interesting, and this will tie back into what I'm
Yeah.
about to tell you and what you just said,
Mhm.
but I saw Sara Bareilles,
Mm.
like this really intimate kind of thing, and she was just talking about her career and how she came up and everything like that. And she was saying that song, "I Want to See You Be Brave," where this really, goes up these pretty high notes and stays on it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, I I like recorded that, but I couldn't sing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had to get with a voice teacher and like learn how to do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like she did it because it's
Once.
like literally you can chop it off and do like that and whatever.
Yeah.
But she had to learn how to sing it. And honestly, like for some of my music, it's been that way.
Uh-huh.
Keep on included. So it was like, okay, I can sing this isolated, but I had
Right.
to work with the teacher afterwards, be like, okay, how do I actually perform this? And so I sing that song like all the time to make sure
Yeah.
that I'm like able to perform it how I want to perform it now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, it reminds me of like when you watch an ice skater and you know they're going to jump, right? You know they're going to pull that triple axel and you can see them lining up and getting their body ready. And that's kind of what I picture when I hear someone slide into a note like that and that transition. It's like an ice skater
Mm,
going into the jump and the, you know, and
yeah.
I would think that that part's probably the hardest part,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the
right?
transition.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I've been learning a lot about my voice because I'm not a trained singer. I've taken like a handful of lessons from different people,
Mm-hmm.
um, but singing in a controlled way, I guess, is a relatively new thing for me. Like within the last, I guess, 5 years or so,
Yeah.
and so I've been learning like how to place my voice in different ways to get the same effect or
Yeah.
to get a more resonant sound or whatever, just like to make it work
Yeah.
and trying to configure things in a way in my face and my body so that it sounds seamless and it sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at what point then? So that must require an insane amount of practice because then when you go to perform it, you kind of have to throw that away so that
Hmm.
you can be in the moment and not be overthinking about all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that that would take years and years and years really for
Hmm.
to really be able to get it ingrained into the muscles of your face and your lips and your body and just like and your throat and all that stuff and to be able
Right.
to just go okay now I don't have to worry about that now I can just be in the moment of my song.
Right. Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
And I think it's like training your body to believe like this is just how I do it. This way that I want to do it. Like I've done it way more times this way than I have the other way. So like
Right.
this is how we're doing it. I
Okay
know you're
body.
tired, Daniel, but this is how we're doing it, you know?
Is
Um
that what's going through your head before you step on stage? Now, when I come see you live, I'm going to be like, I know what he's thinking about. He's going to be like, Daniel, Daniel.
uh, look at me. No, I no, I mean I try to relax, I try to let go when I'm performing. And I have to trust that the work that I've put in beforehand is gonna like carry
Hmm.
me through that performance, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I also have like a awesome band with me that's so on top of it. It's like also encourages me to like, okay, I gotta
Yeah.
really bring it, gotta really be on top of my craft, I guess.
Yeah. You do have a great band. Let's talk a little bit about well, let's see. Your newest release. Do we have new music coming since Keep On has been released? Is that a hint that there's like a new collection coming soon? Or so many people release music differently these days. So I'm always curious when I see a new single come out. Is that a little like teaser that more is coming?
Yeah, more is coming. I'm
When?
excited. My next one's coming out in September.
Okay, good.
Uh, and we're just teasing them out as singles and
Yeah.
that's just kind of the way of the
A
world right
slow
now.
drip. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. I'm really excited by this next process in part because um, we've got a visual project that goes along with the EP. It's telling a larger story within these little vignettes.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
like Keep On is like sort of this like um, you're seeing the same scene, but it's appearing at different parts in the song and
Oh,
getting new context for it. And so we'll have kind of a series of those that tell a larger story. So I'm excited to put those into the world. They've already been filmed. It's already
in the
like,
can.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Well, that must
So,
feel good to kind of have it all done. How long of a process was that for you?
we, oh man, I say we, my partner, is a musician also, and also really great with logistics and like, all right, we need this person to help us with this and do this and this and this. So we had several people on the team helping us create
Mm,
this work. My friend Riley Ingeman was the DP and the director.
nice.
Um, we had Eric doing lighting. We had my partner Lydia doing like production and just making sure everything ran at it as it's supposed to. Lulu was doing style.
Nice.
Um, Somebody came and did set design and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun and a lot of moving parts. My friend Nadia was plays opposite of me in here.
Mm,
Um, there's also some other cool stuff that you'll get to see when
yeah,
it comes
yeah.
out.
Keep the suspense.
Yeah. Um, I guess it was a fun experience to like really do it ourselves, and you know, it took really only like 2 days of filming, but like a lot of lead up
Prep?
to it,
Yeah,
whole lot of prep.
yeah.
Um, but it's beautiful what we were able to accomplish and what we were able to film in like 2 days, like six different
Vignette.
scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does
six
it make
different
you want to
scenes.
do that again if it feels right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be it might be a different format next time, but like it's like cool, we
Yeah,
did that, and now like
yeah.
figuring out what the next format is. For
Yeah,
sure.
that's cool. I like it when artists venture out and do different mediums and really kind of challenge themselves and see, like you got singing and performing in the bag, like check. And I love it when it's like, what else is in there, I really love seeing what comes out when people do that. So good. I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to that. So what is like right now, you're in Austin, right? And what do you have going on? Do you have any shows coming up, or how can people best kind of come see you and support you and know what's going on with Daniel Fears?
Yeah, well, if they want to follow and know what I'm up to next, Instagram is the best way to do that, for
Yeah,
better or worse.
I
Uh,
know, me too.
but that's the best way to keep up with what's going on. I have a TikTok too, but it's like that is just like so not time based. It's like
Ah,
very I
yes.
give you something from like 3 months ago, and you know whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
So if you want to do that's a great way. Yeah. So and I'll also be getting my email list together. I got a bunch of emails. It's just now time to just
Yeah.
get it in order and start sending those out. But Instagram's the best way, and it's at FEARS, my last name,
Yeah.
on the internet.
On the
He's on the
internet.
internet.
Just like I'm cat is on the radio, your fears on the radio on the internet. We have a
Exactly.
similar thing going.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about Black Fret because you're 2022 Black Fret artist.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
What's that experience kind of been like? I know it's kind of a longer experience working with Black Fret, and then I think at the end of the year is like the big ball, correct? Where
Mhm.
they award the grants and stuff. So what's happening with Black Fret now, kind of before all that?
Yeah. That's a good question. So we met, or is it potentially like what's happening right now with
Or
Black
just
Friday?
in general, just what that
Yeah.
experience is like. So many of guests on the show have been participants and, kind of awarded and recognized by Black Fret, and it's a great organization. So I just wanted to shine a little bit of a light
Yeah.
on, you know, kind of outside of the main event, what it kind of entails and what you
Sure.
guys are doing.
Yeah. They've been really supportive. We played our first show for Black Fred back in like March or April.
Mhm,
And they've been super supportive ever since. Um, they've opened up doors for me to play other gigs outside of the Black Fred organization.
mhm,
They provide like resources for artists like myself, um, and connect me with other artists in Austin. I think that the interesting thing about people who are in entertainment or in music, I think a lot of times we tend to be a little closed off with one another if there's not some sort of common.
yeah.
I've found that. or at least not as open. Not like they're trying to be mean or anything like that, but they're just less receptive. They tend to be. But the fact that we can meet some other folks and be in the same place and it was open, and like I feel like that opens up doors for more connection,
Hmm.
more creativity. I like and kind of cross pollination, if you will.
Yeah. Has it led to any collaboration or talk of collaboration with
Well, right now it's led to like sharing shows and things like that. I've talked with some folks about collaboration. I just feel like I'm very much in my own world. Like we're finishing these songs with this record, we're just gonna put it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say like being a part of Black Fred definitely brought like a level of like clout, or which sounds like a really like uh, strange thing to say, but it definitely brought a level of like, oh, okay, cool, like a cosign
Well,
essentially.
yeah, you've been vouched for in a way. Like yeah, you've been vetted and vouched for and kind of stamped with like, a certain level of achievement. And yeah, I would say it's an honor to do that. And
Yeah,
yeah, I would think that that kind of propels you a little bit, if not for anything else, just even internally too, for you to go like, oh wow, like you should feel really proud of yourself.
yeah, yeah.
Is it easy for you to feel proud of yourself? I mean, do you ever have those moments when you're alone just to be like, wow, I'm kind of doing it?
I need to have more of those moments, let me tell you. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do have them for sure.
I
Yeah.
want you to get a post-it note and a Sharpie, and I want you to write, I'm doing it, and put it on your
Yeah.
bathroom mirror and
I
look at
love
that
that.
every day and just remind yourself because, life is short, man.
Life is short, and I don't think it's necessary to spend a life in like, oh, am I doing enough, and am I this, am I that? Like I feel like that's pulling you away from where you actually want to be. And maybe you are where you want to be, but you're
Yeah.
so distracted by, you know, maybe it's someone else's opinion of you, or what you think someone else's opinion of you is, or
Mhm.
whatever. Like it's so much better to be in the moment and acknowledge what you're doing. Give yourself grace when you're not, you know,
Mm,
if you feel like you've fallen short a little bit. Like we're just imperfect people, and that
yeah.
is okay.
Yes. Wouldn't it be great if we could remember all of these little nuggets all the time?
Hmm. I know.
Like, I love having conversations like this with people, and it's like all stuff that I know, and advice that I would give, and advice that I try to take for myself. But man, in the moment, it's sometimes the brain goes and you get off track. And then luckily, I started meditating. Now it's become a habit for me to meditate in the morning. I look forward to it.
That's cool.
And it is so cool that I actually want to do it. Like I'm kind of like don't want to talk about it because I don't want to like pop the balloon.
Yeah.
But I will say, since making that a full-blown habit, what I have found miraculously without even trying is that I come back into that now more often than I ever have in my
Mm,
day to day. Driving, whatever, grocery store, just moving through my life, and I'll come back into my breath
mm.
and really paying attention to the fact that I'm breathing.
Yeah, that's
Really
powerful.
cool. Yeah.
That's powerful.
And snaps you back into the moment and makes me realize, okay, Kat, like your next breath is all you really know that you have. So
Yeah,
snap
that's
out of it.
powerful. That's powerful. That's powerful.
It is really. And it's also cliche, like when we talk about it, but I think it's those moments that if you can put it into practice, that's what's going to deepen your experience, my experience in this thing called life, right? And
Yeah.
that's my goal, is just to have a deeper experience in the
Hmm.
present moment. And I'm so glad that I'm having it with you in this moment with your beautiful blue wall behind you. And so tell me a little bit about, before we wrap, um, some of your favorite things. Like, when you walk through a day, like how do you like to start your day? How do you like to end your day? Give us a little peek into Daniel, just the
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
makes you happy?
Oh, that's a great question. I love and I love learning new things and getting new perspectives. So like when I wake up in the morning, try to get hydrated,
Mm,
um, and I have this little spot on the couch
mhm.
where I have a few books like right next to it. I take off a book, set a little timer, and I'll just read a little bit of this book, whatever it may be. It could be like some kind of spiritual stuff. It could be like some literally audio engineering 101 um,
I
or
love
things
that.
like that. Like just stuff that I'm interested in learning about or like a perspective that I want to sort of internalize. So I'll do that. I'll like write in my journal. Um, I'll stretch.
Wait, you're a man that stretches?
Yeah.
I think you might be the first man I've ever met that stretches without being told to stretch. Okay, continue.
Yeah, I wish it was because like, I just love stretching so much. I just find like after like a month of not doing that,
Mhm.
like I'm like, oh, I feel great, and then all of a sudden my back is like tight and like I can't
Yeah,
I can't really function. So it's something I just kind of have to do.
I love that.
Um, yeah, and I'll wake up and I'll make music. Um, I was a teacher for a long time, so I used to go and do that. Um, but yeah, I love like a morning routine and having things that can
Yeah.
like keep me feeling nourished and like I'm still learning and growing and stuff.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I mean, stuff I do outside of that is I've been working out for the past like 6 to 7 months, and that's been cool. It's kind of like, yeah, I love progressing, getting like a little bit better at this stuff.
yeah. What's your goal? Is it to just get stronger and just like definition, or is it to make it a habit and make it something that you actually look forward to doing and it's just a part of your life? Or how does it, what's the goal with working out?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I found that when I was younger and I was working out, as soon as I would see some results, I was like, oh, look at this. Like I would stop. I would like, wow, I'm great. I guess I don't have to work out anymore. And so I'm like I'm kind of tricking myself into, you know, thinking about, okay, I want to be an old man working out. I want to work out
Yeah.
until I'm like 70 or 80 or something.
Yeah.
And then, the side effect is okay, cool. Like, you get
Yeah.
bigger and you're fine, all that stuff. But like to start, it's just like, let me do this for my health. Let me have this be something I can like look forward to every week.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been a lot of fun to explore for sure.
Good. What's the most challenging thing in your life right now? What's really challenging you?
Mm. Um, there's an idea of there's an idea that keeps coming up for me, and that is thinking versus doing.
Mm,
And I really get caught up in the thinking side. I wouldn't say I'm a planner, but like I want to see how things can line up, how things can work to my advantage over the long term, which is a beautiful thing, right?
yeah.
Like, and I want to have a strategy behind the things that I do. But there comes a point where that can become a hindrance. I guess
Mm,
any strength can be a weakness, any weakness can sort of be a
sure.
strength in a way. But that I'm finding that I have to compensate for that overthinking with like I just need to do something. I need to put myself in like
Yeah.
a an uncomfortable situation,
Hmm.
ask people for stuff that I'm thinking that I want, but I normally wouldn't say it, you know,
Mm, hmm.
ask for what I want, move in the direction of the things that I want to move in. Um, Stop just thinking about it.
Hmm.
Take the steps, do the thing. Thinking and moving is not the same as doing,
Nope.
you
I'm
know.
going to and I am are two very different things, right?
Right. They
Yeah.
are.
Do you think there's fear? I know for me, most of the time when I'm in that space, it's because I'm scared, right? There's
Yeah.
always fear. And I have this rule with myself where if I'm aware that there's fear involved, then I'm not allowed to make a decision from that place.
Mm, yeah.
right? Never make a decision from fear. Now, of course, have I? Of course. But now that I'm more aware and I can set these things up with myself, that's what I try to be aware of. Do you feel like things have to be perfect before you can show them? Like, is it that perfection kind of
Oh
thing?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm a recovering perfectionist for sure.
Well,
It's yeah,
the
yeah.
good news is that you know that about yourself. So you are light years ahead of most people, right? And the fact that you can even say that out loud and that you're aware of it, you're you're going to be fine because you have that awareness. It's when we don't, right? Is when we
Yeah.
sort of blindly move through and have no clue why we're doing what we're doing. So you can take a deep breath and know that you're on that path where you're going to make decisions out of a really aware place, you know? And sometimes it's fun just to go, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to, like, on purpose, do something kind of halfway and then see what happens to teach yourself that nothing bad happens, you know?
Yeah. I've
Nothing
heard
bad.
of what's it called? It's this ancient like
Mm,
philosophy. Oh, Stoicism
mm,
from like way back in the day. I've heard about that too. This guy Tim Ferriss.
yeah.
You know him?
I've heard of him, but I haven't listened to him, but I've heard his
Yeah,
name.
so he's got a great podcast and he talks about in part like his one of the philosophies that's really helpful for him, which is Stoicism. And I don't want to butcher this, but I'll try not to say too much about it. But one thing in particular that stood out to me about it was the fact that he will kind of consciously create suffering in a way,
Mm,
which seems like crazy, like, but you know, it's not hurting yourself or hurting other people, but it's like putting yourself in situations where you're going to be uncomfortable,
well,
you're going to get the
yeah,
kind of attention that you're really afraid of,
yeah.
you're maybe even the kind of negative attention that you're afraid of.
Hmm.
But by doing that, you're building resilience for when things don't go your way. Say you do try your hardest to create something or to do something or to make a connection with someone and they totally reject you or it doesn't go as you planned at all. It's like if you've built that resilience to
Mm,
be able to handle that rejection and
hmm.
difficult situations, you're a lot more likely to continue to like to not quit when it gets hard or when people don't understand or whatever, you know?
Sure.
And that's something I want to learn more about and definitely like put into practice in my own life, you know?
Yeah, it kind of circles back to what we talked about at the beginning here of just being comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, we just brought it all the way back around.
Right. That's right.
I think it's time for me to listen to Tim Ferriss. You know how sometimes things come up, you talk to people and enough times like one thing will get brought up for you
Mm.
and then it's like, okay, maybe it's time for me to listen. Tim Ferriss is one of those things. I can't tell you how many times people have mentioned his name to me and I just had never, he's in there, but I've never pushed play, you know?
Hmm.
And so I
Yeah.
feel like, okay, here's another example of the universe going, okay, Kat.
Time to listen.
I
Yeah.
think it's time to listen. Yeah.
You know, have you heard the term meta learning?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's like learning how to learn better, learning how
Yeah.
to teach yourself better.
I
And he
love
is
that
one
kind
of
of
like
stuff.
a major, I guess, practitioner of that and an advocate for that.
Yeah.
And so that's been really, really helpful for me as I pick up new skills and stuff. It's like, okay, how can I do this
Yeah.
faster, more effectively? How can I get to the point? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you, before we close it up, I'm curious because being a recovering perfectionist while also being someone that really loves to learn and absorb, you know, where is that how do you balance that, like, because you're kind of asking for not being a perfect in a lot of different things, that kind of Da Vinci syndrome thing, right, where you're really good where you do a lot of things and we have a
Mhm.
lot of interests. I'm a bit like that. It's like, okay, you got to pick one and get really good at it or good
Mm,
enough.
yeah.
That's my rule, just get good enough.
Right,
You don't
right.
have to be perfect. Just get good enough and then move on to the other thing. But I mean, is that kind of a daily conversation in your head of just like balancing those things as you seek knowledge and learn?
I guess I still I try to hold myself to a high standard um, when I am preparing. Like, okay, so if there's something external that I have going on, like a concert
Mhm.
or something like that, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna make sure that I put in the time and the energy and set myself up in a way that I can succeed at that. So when I get on the gig or whatever, I can like, relax. I'm not like hopefully not uptight or whatever,
Yeah.
like wishing it was some different way. So it's like putting in the work in the present moment to get the result I want for something later. I think that's for me, that's the only kind of remedy for
Yeah.
that like perfectionist way of thinking about it. I want it to be really good, so I've got to put in the work now to get what I want later.
Yeah. And
Uh,
also compartmentalize
mm,
and just if you have a show, compartmentalize, go, okay, like I'm going to just focus on this and I'm going to prep for the show and everything else can kind of just wait. Are you good at that part too?
sort of,
I
yeah, sort
don't
of,
think any of
yeah.
us are really good at it, but that's what I try to do where it's like, okay, I love to take in all of this stuff, but then when I know like I'm talking to Daniel Fears in an hour or in 3 days, I'm like, okay, I gotta put my focus on Daniel and I'm
Mhm.
gonna dive into all things Daniel and be
Awesome.
present with him. And then after this, I can go back.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Totally,
See, you're not
totally.
alone.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us and giving everyone a peek into what's going on in your world and who you are and off stage. Um, are there any Austin shows coming up?
I have a Black Fret show in September, September 10th at
Awesome.
Native, which will be a lot of fun. We got a guitar player joining us for that
Great.
event. And then this is still to be decided, but we're working with the Victory Grill to do a show there at the end of September also to celebrate the release of my next song.
Fantastic. Well, good. Well, I'll be pushing those things as I get the details on them as well. But in the meantime, you take care, drink lots of tea and rest.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed talking to you.
And same, thanks for you're doing such great work. So
Oh,
I'm
thank
grateful to be a part
you.
of this.
I love you guys. I love the community in this city. You mean a lot to me. I love what you're doing. And it's really important to me that people get to have a little time with you, you know? It's really
Yeah,
important to me. So good. I'm so glad you were able to join and I'll be out there watching next
awesome.
time I can come to a show.
Awesome.
All right, Daniel. Thank you for stopping by. This does it for another episode of the Austin Downbeat with Daniel Fears. Thanks for watching. Bye.